musings of the entertainment industry, of the music business, where it was, where it is, where it's going, why it's different. I don't know what this is yet.
We might even talk about music.
But in the hip-hop world, bitch gets used all the time.
It does, but not all that is bitching, man. You know,
bitching, like that's a great car. Like,
yeah,
that's
like,
a
that
hot car. That's bitching.
but here's one we forgot. Now, I grew up in California. I don't know if you guys had these words up here, but when I was in like first and second grade, whatever was cool was tough. Oh, that's tough. Look at that car. That's tough.
Yeah.
You know, and he kind of spelled it Tuff too. It wasn't spelled like tough. It was like, that's tough. I don't know. Do you have any?
Well, mint was big.
Mint? Oh, that is mint? Oh, like mint. Like,
Completely mint.
That means it's like no scratches.
It's like schmick.
That one, a schmeck. Schmeg sounds too much like schmeg. Schmeck? What's schmeck? Sounds Yiddish.
Maybe it is Yiddish, but it's like, it's immaculate.
Ah.
It's mint. It's beautiful. It's just...
Like skookum.
Yeah,
a truly Canadian word.
Skookum?
Skookum, yeah. It's I forget which nation used skookum, but that means...
Wasn't it skookum, Chuck?
Skookum is actually in the Canadian dictionary. You won't find it anywhere else. Anyway,
that's a word I heard a lot growing up, was skookum. That was a word my father used.
My dad used the word skookum a lot. And but anyway, and then another movie I decided to rent because I was just felt like watching cheap sci-fi. As I ended up with a double feature of The Fly, and on side 2, The Fly 2. And The Fly being classic, it made me laugh a couple times. But then The Fly 2, shot in Vancouver.
You're talking about the Jeff Goldblum.
The Jeff Goldblum, The Fly, with the David Cronenberg version.
Right.
But then The Fly 2 came out, and that was shot in Vancouver.
With Jeff Goldblum.
Well, no, Jeff Goldblum wasn't in it. No, it had Eric Stoltz.
Oh, you're right. Yeah.
And it starred Daphne, what's her name? Daphne, the woman from Spaceballs. Daphne, I can never remember her last name. We're live, baby. We're talking about some shitty movies right now. Anyway, The Fly 2, set in Vancouver. And it turns out that the guy that did all the prosthetics for The Fly got the directing gig for The Fly 2. And it caused me to invent a new word.
What's the word?
The word I've invented, and hopefully if you hear this word again, you can know that it was invented here. The word is idiotic.
Idiotic?
Idiotic. That movie is idiotic, meaning hideous and really mostly idiotic. Which The Fly 2 defines the word idiotic. Of course, there's many people I know in that movie. Saffron Henderson's in that movie.
Really?
Yeah, she fills in for Gina Davis because when she saw the script, they found out that they killed her character in the first 30 seconds of the movie. And Gina Davis said, screw that. I ain't doing that. Kill me in the first 10 seconds. I'm not going to show up. So she didn't show up. So Saffron Henderson filled in for Gina Davis. And if you look at the camera angles, they tried to do the makeup and they angled her body so you never quite see her face. You sort of see her face. And they did the hair to look somewhat like Gina Davis's character from the previous movie. So she dies right away. But Saffron also fills in all of Gina Davis's, they have some videotape stuff that shows up, and Saffron Henderson once again plays Ronnie, or Gina Davis's character.
Really? Wow,
anyway, the movie...
really interesting. And it was Daphne Zuniga? Zuniga?
Yeah, she's from Spaceballs. And in this movie, it's like, I don't think she was too good. But of course, another friend of mine I grew up with, a fellow named Andy Rhodes, was in this movie playing a bit part. He gets his head crushed by an elevator. And I was like, Andy, no, Andy, oh, you're okay. I just saw you the other day. But, you know, his head got crushed. It's idiotic from the beginning to the end. It's a terrible movie, but I laughed many times.
Okay, let's try something.
Okay.
This is just for Sean and these guys, because we have to try to tag this, and maybe Sean can edit this later. So I'll try a few. Excuse me. Try a few titles.
Titles of the show.
Yeah.
Speaking to this camera sometimes.
Sometimes. Is that the main shot?
Not you. You're the guest.
I'm the guest. So that one's
doesn't
me.
know enough to do this stuff.
Oh, the guest doesn't know where to look.
Okay.
Aren't they supposed to have a red light on the hot one?
Welcome to a new episode of Music, No Music. Wow. Let's try that again.
How do I play that?
Welcome to another episode of Music, No Music. Let's try another one.
Welcome to another episode of I fucking hate music. Fuck off.
Music, not music.
Oh, not music. That was it. Welcome to another episode.
Of not just another music show.
Welcome to another episode of Music, Not Music.
Can I say that with the slow down echoes? Check it out. Welcome to another episode of Music, Not Music.
You're here at Music, Not Music. Welcome back to Music, Not Music.
Say it in French.
Say it.
Music, no music.
You don't like my title. I fucking hate music. Fuck off. You guys don't like that one?
We don't like to use the bad words.
Really? But there was a study that they found out that intelligent people swear more than people that are not. And not only that, that people who swear are seen as more honest than people who don't. This is an interesting
I don't
thing.
fucking believe that.
Exactly. Okay, well, they can...
That means Sean must be a very, very
Intelligent
honest
man.
intelligent and honest
a very
person.
intelligent and honest person. That's what I was thinking. In fact, many of my friends are intelligent and honest under those criteria.
You know, I always notice it in the classroom situation, if I'm teaching a course at Nimbus, when students will use the F word openly, like it really spawns everybody to start using it. And then, suddenly you've got 8 people in the room and that's the third word of everything that they...
It's an important part of learning to be an engineer. I can tell you as an engineer that being able to swear properly is useful, especially when equipment breaks down. Because it distracts the band from... And also, if you make a mistake and start swearing, it sounds like someone else made a mistake. So it kind of, it's a good trick. You see what happens is if you make a mistake, then you swear at the assistant, and the band's distracted while you fix it. So
I'm
it's a
not
good thing to
sure.
teach.
I'm not sure why I don't swear as much as maybe I should be.
No, you're a dad. You probably started swearing less, but you've never been a
No.
swearing guy.
No, we've never really.
It's not your character.
Yeah.
You're the one who cleans up after all the swearing. You come in and
There was a time that I was swearing a lot. And I think it was when I discovered the words. I probably would swear more in elementary school than I did post elementary school.
Well, as they say, little kids swearing is always funny. I don't know why that is. But the smaller they are and the more vile the language, the funnier it is. You're saying, that's awful. And meanwhile, you're laughing.
I remember in 3rd grade walking with a group of maybe 5 kids from school. Maybe some of them were a year older, a year younger, and we were walking down the street. It was Campbell River. That's where we lived.
They have swearing up there?
And there was lots of swearing going on. And these kids kept saying, we all were saying the same word over and over again. And then one kid said something, I can't remember what it was. And then one of the older kids, when I say older, he was probably in grade 4, said, hey, if your parents didn't fuck, you wouldn't even be here. And at that moment, I thought, what is he talking about?
Exactly.
And I made it my business to find out
Oh, yes.
what he was talking about.
Similar.
And eventually I did.
Similar experience for me. I remember we were getting very good at using the word fuck, and the big kids down the street who said to us, you don't even know what it means. And so we went to our parents and said, Mommy, Daddy, what does fuck mean? And it was one of these moments where you hear your mother going, well, children, when a man and a woman, blah, blah. And so anyway, they gave us the correct answer, which is it's making love, which you don't have to define. As long as you say that, then you kind of know what it means, even if you don't know what making love is. That's how we got out of it. We didn't really quite get it because literally I was 6, right? But having a translation of it to say to the big kids, then they were off our case. But are we going to talk about music or no music?
Actually,
No music.
we are talking about no music right now, but let's talk about your theory of artistry and
Artistry, no artistry, you mean?
artistry, no artistry. Like
Well-
I just to set you up for this, I always refer to there's okay, you know, in music we tend to say, well, there's musicians, and then there's artists and recording artists, and I tend to use the word artists with people that I'm working with or people that I refer to as, you know, maybe successfully following their path, um, you know, in the commercial realm. I'll use the word artists, and that's how I'm setting you up. For
Well,
your
you know, I
theory.
mean, I've had a chance to work with a lot of different people, some older and better than me, some younger and better than me, and a bunch of others in between. And the one thing I found out is that you know, recording artist is a little tough one right now because now there's even dogs on Commercial Drive here that have their own CDs out, right? So it doesn't take much to be a recording artist because you can make a record so easy, so to speak, a record being a CD or some recording. But I have some ideas. Sometimes I have to keep them to myself because it's not what a musical artist wants to hear, and that is that creativity is overrated. And by that I mean everybody talks about, oh, well, you know, I want to express my creativity. I want to do this. It's like, you know what? Everybody in the world is creative. No one's creativity is better than someone else's. If my kid takes her fingers and rubs them on a piece of paper with paint on her hands and I put it on the fridge and then you're going to tell me your creativity is better than hers, it's like, no. What's important is the execution. How well can you express what you've got? That's a bigger job, to be able to execute the idea that you have for others to experience it, which moves us away from the creative more to the execution. For me, making a record with people, I think the creativity happened when you wrote the song. Now we just have to do it right. We don't need to be so creative in the studio because we have a song. That's creative. That's all the creative we need. If you can follow the song and let the song tell you what to do, there's not much creativity in there. It's actually being sensitive and open to what the song wants, what an audience might want to hear. And that's an exercise in precision and execution and a little bit of prediction.
Would you say it's an exercise in craft?
It's more of a craft than a creative thing. You know, the execution of the idea is as important as the idea. And I can tell you, if we look at the way things sell, listen to the radio, you'll see it's very well executed. There's not necessarily a lot of good ideas there, but they are well done. I was sitting in a restaurant last night listening to yet another female pop singer using the same chords from Don't Stop Believin', because there's about 500 songs that have those chords. What is it? C, G, A minor, F, right? That chord change, don't stop believing. There's just, and it was yet another one, except this one had an even more boring melody, but it was so perfectly done that you hear the song on the radio. This execution thing is kind of, you know, what we're looking at right now. We've got auto-tune and this, and everything's midied and quantized and dit. We haven't seen an artist do something interesting for quite a while, you know, in a big way. I have very few.
So when you say an artist do something interesting, like if they're tapping into creativity, that would mean that what they were doing, if they were tapping into the actual creative process or the channeling, the channeling art, let's say.
Yeah, well,
we have to define art, but then you must be dealing with something spontaneous, right?
There's a part of it there. I just see that the creativity, your creativity is one of the tools you have as a musical artist to make good music. But you can be as creative as you want. Give me a trash can lid and I can make creative music. And I can express my emotions. I can bang the lid and you'll think, oh, that kind of sounds angry. and I can bang the lid gently, and it can kind of sound like, okay, not so mad. I can express emotion with a wooden spoon, and my girlfriend does the most amazing Chinese opera with a old pot and a wooden spoon going ging 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 ging, singing. It's like fantastic, super creative. But that creativity is one of the tools you have. As a producer, you also have to have a good sense of dynamics and tempo and what those bring to a song. They're not necessarily big creative parts of songwriting. Is what's the tempo? Nobody says, oh, so creative with the tempo. I mean, the tempo is just amazing on this. You guys are, like the way you really nailed that 119 beats per minute. I mean, wow.
But the tempo is just part of the interpretation. It's one of the variables that you
huge,
have in craft, right?
It's a huge part of whether people like the song or not.
Okay, but let's just go back to creativity for a second and the thing or artistry. So if we look at art, it's kind of that thought, like, it's one of a kind. It's a moment of an original inspiration or something. It's like an idea that is manifested through or channeled through, I don't know. I mean, what do you, if you believe that all of us have this, we're all creative.
Oh, we all are.
Okay, I believe that too. So isn't that about tapping into something that I'll call intuition, intuitively sort of pulling down glimpses of the truth, and then freezing that in a moment that just rings true, or is a reflection of like, there it is. Like, and it's really hard to describe, obviously, and
we certainly look for that when we hit record and somebody starts to play a guitar solo.
Yeah,
right?
but even in the
writing, that's when we really want to hear like a moment of like, give us some juice right here of something awesome. Because we do need somebody to go stick their antenna up into the ether and give us a report from heaven, right? Mm-hmm. That is the artist's job, true enough. It's all about the execution. I mean, I'm lucky I just got to make a record with Neil Osborne in 5440, and Neil's a very creative person. He comes up with a lot of cool stuff. But I can tell you that what he says in 3 seconds of creativity takes us 4 hours to execute properly. The idea was cool, and it was a very good idea, but still, when it comes right down to it, making it work in the song is not about being creative. It's about remembering that creative moment. I can tell you, I've had a chance to mix some really great stuff. And sometimes the first hour, you're getting goosebumps, you're crying, you're having all these feelings, but your mix isn't done yet. 8 hours later, maybe you've got the mix done. Maybe you're not getting goosebumps and crying anymore, but you got to try and remember how it made you feel and keep trying to go, okay, well, I remember this game. You can see I'm getting goosebumps talking about it. There was one mix. Neil will tell you that every time one part of the song came on our latest record there, every time it kicked in, I would hold up my arm and the hairs would be standing up. I say, this is what we're trying to do, isn't it? Right? Because I got goosebumps, so that's what I'm going for. And you look for that, but the creativity is the beginning, the execution, making it work and keeping it alive to the end through the entire process so that you don't lose that spark of creativity. That's the challenge. Everybody can be creative and everyone gets their moment of genius. But I was sitting with Andrew Oldham making a record, and somebody sang something. The fella from V-Twin sang it. And Andrew goes, that was great, do that again. And the singer says, in his thick Scottish accent, I don't know if I can do that again. Mm-hmm. And then Andrew says the way he does, because he has this way about him. He pushes down the talkback button. He says, you can repeat it. That's what makes you an artist. And I thought that was one of the most important things I ever learned in music about what makes you an artist, is that you can do it again, right? Like, if I throw a basketball at the hoop from 40, 50 feet away, eventually I'll probably get one in.
Right.
right?
Right.
I could do it. I just can't repeat it.
But isn't that craft?
It is. It's craft. It's
I mean-
the artist of a craft. But what makes you an artist is that you can come up with it and then you can come up with it again. It's not just a one-off,
Mhm.
right? If you can write one great song, a lot of people have one great song. If you have 8 great songs, well, you truly are a musical artist because you're able to take that and you're able to repeat it and deliver the same quality, you know, as you did before. And I found that telling. It's like, yeah. And it's like, because I can play an awesome solo, and me, I've practiced a lot. I could play it again for you. Pretty close, right? And, you know, we can work to get better. It's a tough thing when you get in the studio with somebody who never plays the same thing twice and can't repeat anything they do, right? It's tough.
Yeah. They almost become useless in the studio, too.
Cut what? What's going on? There you go. Yeah. See, oh, I've got a video. I wrote a video for 5440, by the way, that I think is super cool and relatively cheap.
Except that now we're going to have to spend hours and hours producing it, right?
No.
Maybe you can just tell us about it, and then we can just play that over and over again.
Oh, there's that.
Fake you editor again.
Okay.
What's that?
I'm just gonna fake editor. So, part 2.
Hang on, we're watching the Tintins.
Welcome back. We've got the Ting Tings. That's not my name. Uh-oh. Royalty free. Music, not music. What were we talking about?
We're talking about creativity is overrated.
Yeah, I don't know if it's overrated. I think that's where it starts, though. Or
I
maybe
like-
it's
I like-
inspiration is where it starts.
I like that statement, though. I like saying
Yeah, it's
it is
provocative.
it is overrated in that I'll say it's overrated as far as the music, as far as being a professional goes, because that's not the pathway to any kind of financial success. It's not about your creativity. You know, partly I imagine the guy saying, "I want you to listen to my record because the thoughts and feelings I have are so profound that when I share them with you, you're going to know what a beautiful person I am." That's my fucking phone. That's me. Hang on. Who's calling me? Damn. Right in the middle of my genius statement.
It's the thought police calling you.
It's somebody creative saying, "I don't agree."
It's the musicians union. Your membership dues are
All right,
overdue.
missed it. Oh, Kagao.
Yeah, it figures he would
Let me
interrupt.
shut this up. Kagao. Hang on, let me just turn it all down. All right. And more of that. So what I say creativity is overrated is that everybody gets caught up in their creativity and their own personal expression, and they think that, I don't know, I think it's looking for some kind of ego gratification. If I do what I truly believe in, and then the people will love it, it's like, I'm not that interested in that myself, because I think about the records I buy. And I don't go out and say, look at a record and say, wow, this person looks really creative. It looks like they're expressing their emotions very well. I think I should listen to it. I don't buy that record. I buy the record of the guy that expresses my emotions. He expresses my feelings. He even does it better than me. When I listen to Bill Evans play piano, it's like, God, I wish I could do that. I want to play it just like that. Fact is, sometimes I sit down and actually try and learn it. You know, because he plays it the way I wish I could play it. He says it the way I wish I could say it. He captures an emotion that is dormant inside my soul, and he gives it form and feeling, and then I can feel that feeling clearly. That, I believe, is a more interesting and challenging thing, because it took me a few years to learn to express my own emotions. I was able to do it by the time I was 17 on guitar. It took me about 25 years to learn how to express other people's emotions, so that you look out in the audience and you see someone crying and you're playing guitar or singing a song, and you are reaching them. That's more. That's a more challenging thing, and I think it's a higher path.
Yeah,
it's really when you kind of go to that. Oh, geez, this world, this life, music. It's not about me. It's about you and the audience. It's about all of you, and it's about me taking my skills and these 12 notes we use in our scale, and some timing and some dynamics and a few different timbres, and mixing all of these things together to create some kind of connection to your own personal emotion. That's an interesting problem.
but an audience relates to it it resonates with them.
It's finding that thing they resonate with. Yeah.
Yeah. You see, this, I completely agree with you. And this is the thing that I'm confronted with all the time, or over the last number of years. And certainly as I deal now with students and I deal with young artists, everybody has created something. Okay. You have your music, you have your recording, whatever it might be, you have your show, whatever you're presenting. And the idea is when they come across somebody like me is like, now you are that person who is going to be able to help us get people to react the way that you have just described when something is resonating. And the misconception by so many artists, let's call them,
Yeah.
is that there's some sort, it's all has to do with marketing. It has to do with some sort of solution that they can learn about, some sort of machinery that just takes their music and puts it through some sort of system or some sort of pipeline that comes out the other place where people will say, oh, now I'm reacting that way because you've shown me the path of how to take my music and put it through that machinery. But that machinery only works when something is already going to resonate. Like the thing that I'm looking for is
exactly.
actually like, wow, this is resonating with me. There's a good chance it's going to resonate with others.
Well,
or I see that it's resonating with this particular demographic in this way. I bet you we could double that. We could expose that to more, and this could grow because it's working on these people. And then you introduce it to some of that machinery that actually helps you spit it out to the world, right?
Yeah, well, this is the thing, is that it's not a question of whether it's good or not. It's, for us people in the professional side of the industry of marketing, but it has nothing to do with whether it's good. There's lots of good music. It has a question as to whether we can identify somebody who wants it, right? And we know who they are. We have to know how to find them. We can't just say, oh, the masses, because you can't market to the masses. It's impossible. Who are they? Tell me how to market to the masses. We have to market to individuals, and because that's really all there is a bunch of individuals, which we like to call the masses, but there are no masses buying your record. Anybody listening to your record is one or maybe two people sitting on their couch listening to your record. They like it, they don't like it, right? And it's like in each case, we're singing to an individual in the end.
And you know what? Music has successful music populates itself that way.
It does,
right? Because really, if you want to sell a lot of music, or create an identity for yourself that's beyond your friends and family, it is creating something that connects with people in such a powerful way that they cannot help but share that with someone close to them.
It's true enough. It happened to me this year. I saw Dan Byrne. Dan Byrne is one of the most well-known unknown guys you'd ever find.
Mm-hmm.
He does great gigs. He tours all over the place solo. He's got TV themes. He's got cartoons he's written the stuff for. He wrote all the songs for Walk Hard, Dewey Cox. This guy's got credits up and down, left and right, but he has no major label. He doesn't have huge, gigantic management or a push. No, this guy grabs his guitar and tours 200 days out of the year, and he puts out an album every year. He's doing all right. And he's going to continue to do all right because he's a great songwriter. And, he's one of the more creative artists where I'll bend the rules and say, his gift of gab, his lyrics is just, the guy's amazing. I became a fan, but I didn't really notice it because my sweetheart, she only likes certain kinds of very popular music. Like she quite likes Tom Jones and Barry Manilow and ABBA.
Tom Jones.
She loves ABBA.
What's new, Pussycat?
Oh yeah, she knows all that. I even know how to play that one. And if I want to have a good night, I just put on some Barry Manilow and things are going to get mellow and fun.
See, I'm not so much the Manilow.
No, not me either. Fact is, I even wrote in one of my songs, I had one of my worst musical moments of my life with Barry Manilow, like one of the top 10 bad moments, I guess the bottom 10.
This is the not music part of the show.
Oh, the not music. Let me tell the story. There I was with my friend Ken Vermette, and we decided to swipe some acid from my parents and trip out. So what does that tell you? So we did. We stole some acid. We dropped acid. We were walking around in Slocan Valley, Winlaw, BC, right? And we're walking around. We're going, oh my God, we are like so fucking high. Sorry, I swore. And we were walking along and stick up my thumb, and this car pulls over to pick us up hitchhiking. These two Doukhobor women driving the car. And I remember we're going over these sort of bumpy, you know, like these heaves on the old dirt road. And I was sitting in the back seat in the middle, and I got like kids all around me, and I'm really, really high. And meanwhile, I'm hearing this voice coming out of the radio. I've never heard this voice before, this voice going, now, oh, now, oh, now, hold on fast. And I was thinking, I was in that clarity. I was like, oh my God, what is wrong with this singer? This is the most pathetic person I've ever heard in my life. I've never heard anything quite this bad, ever in my whole life. I've never heard, Lawrence Welk is better than this. This is the worst. And I'm like, and I can't say anything because I'm getting a ride and I'm really high. But I'll never forget it.
And what was it?
It was what's it? Could It Be Magic by Barry Manilow, you know? Now, oh now, and hold on fast. Could this be the magic? And I was like, no, let me out of this car.
But what you're really telling me is for you to actually get some magic, you have to put on the Manilow.
I've come to appreciate Barry Manilow. A couple of things made me appreciate him.
Of
you know,
Barry Manilow.
Well, you know, I heard about him because I was doing a record with Greg Calby at Sterling. Mm-hmm. And I kind of had a nice relationship with his assistant. We were kind of friends on the phone. And she was telling me that, oh, it was amazing today. I said, how's the record coming? She said, oh, it's going great. We'll send you the files. She says, but it was so amazing today because Barry Manilow was in doing a record with George Marino. And what happened is somebody saw him enter the building. So people from every single floor filed into Sterling to get an autograph, like 200-300 people, right? And Barry, who just came in to pop into mastering, and then when the people lined up, he just sat down and he signed every autograph. He sat there for 3.5 hours signing autographs for his fans, even though he really was only scheduled to be there for half an hour. And that is the difference between the successful artists and the unsuccessful artists. The successful artists absolutely love their fans, adore them to pieces, and will do anything for them. Bryan Adams, same deal. I've seen him do it. Shake the hand of a huge number of people that came up out of the blue. He treated them all so well. I think we chatted about it last time. And it's just, you know, the guy's an expert at making his fans feel good. And they have paid for everything in his life, and he knows it. And he doesn't feel an entitlement to his fans. That's what I noticed. He respects them greatly. There is no entitlement to success in music. Just because you had a hit doesn't mean you deserve a hit. Doesn't mean you deserve the next one. No, many people have found that out. They thought they were entitled to their audience. And they find out, no, the audience is who decides whether you're the star or not. The moment they stop buying your concert tickets and your records, if you think, I'm going to do my thing because they love me, you know, if they don't buy it, you're screwed, right? That's it.
How do you think, I mean, I agree with that.
Absolutely.
And that, you know, that connection, by the way, with your fan is once again an extension of the connecting with your music. Yeah. Because that person that hears your music, that person that actually you spend a fraction of your time with just to sign an autograph or to say hello, that person will talk about that for the rest of their life.
Sure.
At different times.
It's important.
And this is actually, and I just want to make this point because we touched upon it before we drove with Barry on acid.
Yes.
But just this idea of peer-to-peer, right? Because I think there's some misconception that music was sold a certain way in the past, and now that we're in this digital age, social media or something is the way that music is sold.
By peer-to-peer, do you mean the old term word of mouth?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And the word of mouth is that if something is absolutely great or affects you in a certain way, I mean, great meaning it affected me. I went to that show, I saw that show, it was amazing, it blew me away. Or I listened to this music, I'm compelled to to tell my friend, to tell my family, to promote it. That's always how music is being sold.
Yeah, to share it.
Always. And there's any sort of new technology or whatever that we're dealing with now, it's like that's people get lost in that. So there's some secret with that's going to help us. Those are all tools. It's a way to get maybe a message out quicker. It's a way to communicate. It's another uh, arsenal for marketing and methodologies to connect with people. But it's really the substance of what you're connecting with is something that's affected us, something
true
that we
enough.
need to tell people about.
You
We're
touch onto
compelled.
that. You touch onto that idea because I work with young groups either as a musician, just playing with them, or sometimes recording them, and it's hard to explain to people that despite what you think, the music industry has not changed in the last, particularly a whole lot in the last 50 years. Even now with all the new technology, it's still the same. The main difference now, I was just having a chat with Pete Werner of all people about this an hour ago, and it was that the main thing that's changed is a lot of the middle stuff is gone. It used to be that there was kind of the poor bands that made crap, and then there was kind of middle sort of area where you could make some money, a little bit of money, enough to live, and then you could kind of get bigger, and then you could kind of break and do well. It seems that that section of areas where bands getting $2,000 a week to play at a pub somewhere, right? That is all gone. I don't seem to see too much of that anymore. Where working in a top 40 band, you could actually make a living in a bar. The bars aren't paying enough to have a 5-piece band doing a circuit in Alberta like I did. Where we made enough money, we could live together in a house, we could all go to school, we could buy guitars and stuff. We weren't getting rich, but we could do okay playing bars in Alberta. And we would, we had some, I think we were with Axe Entertainment or something in Edmonton, and we would tour to all these dumb little towns, and we got by. We did all right with our band. And I think that part of the music industry is kind of gone, or it's changed there. Now club owners don't want to pay anything to have music. So, now we have to generate every nickel that we have. If you can get people to pay $10 to see you, you can make money.
Mm-hmm.
I did some gigs with Art in like little 300-400 seaters with Art Bergman, and
Mm-hmm.
people paid to see Art, so we did okay.
Mm-hmm.
But these other gigs, playing these restaurants, there's gigs around, we do them, you get $25 in dinner. It's like, holy crap, we've gone back to the 30s. Music has not moved ahead. Now we're back in the 30s, right? Dinner and a quarter day's wages or something, right? Not even $100 to play a show now.
That part, for me, it doesn't seem. I mean, certainly there's attractions. If you do things well, you build your artist into an attraction. There's a certain price that you can charge, a certain capacity that you can play at, and there's economic sense in all of it. But the part that really hasn't changed, and at one point you could say it was healthy, it just doesn't exist in the same way, is just that value of a musician playing in a nightclub or in a place where they're actually getting paid a fair wage and
just to sit there and play guitar.
And it really hasn't changed. So the stories that I hear from people who talk about situational club things that they might have been engaged with in the 1950s, in the 1960s, it actually hasn't changed that much. I mean, of course the dollar isn't exactly the same, but for me, over 25, 30 years, opening money is still $150 to $500. Like it's always been that band, for 30 years.
It never goes. It's going down, if anything.
Well, of course it's going down, because now it's like, well, you want to be on this tour, maybe you can pay us
that happened
to have
to
the
us.
privilege of being on the tour. I mean, that's been going on for years.
That happened,
and it's been going on for years in other parts.
That happened to us.
Europe
we lost a tour when someone outbid us.
Mm-hmm.
We were going to tour with Squeeze. We were on the tour. They wanted us, and then who was it? Copeland there, his brother there, the Miles, had a band he was doing, so he just turned around and offered them $20,000 to take the band. And they signed the deal, and our label was like, no, we'll give you 22. And it's like, no, because they would just put it on our recoupment. But no, too late, done deal. And they didn't want to piss off Miles Copeland anyway. So, that all makes sense. And the band never did anything. But, it goes that way. Like, they wanted that tour, so they just paid $20,000. So we're thankfully, we're not all the way back to LA pay to play, but getting pretty close.
How are artists going to be paid in the future? Well,
you got to have fans. That's the most direct route to go, is have fans. I mean, literally, if 100 people will pay $25 to see you, then you make $2,500. That's about it. It just doesn't get any simpler than that. If you don't have fans, don't expect to get paid. You got to build fans. You got to, and social networking is a part of it. There's a couple other ways to get your music out there, between YouTube and, all those people that are sitting around sifting through demos to try and find the newest Mac commercial music, because you hear new bands on TV commercials selling computers or phones. That's where we hear a lot of the new bands, and those bands tend to do really well once they get on that telephone ad. It's like, oh, like, what was it, Fife? She had that, was that her name?
It might have been her name.
1, 2, 3, was it Mac?
Feist.
Feist.
Right.
Feist. Yes, I think it was somewhere between Fist and Fife. So Feist. It's like, she had a massive hit. But there was an artist, and I don't want to insult them if they tend to tune in or hear this. It's like, I remember reading an article where they said, now we had the first hit, but now we got some creative goals we want to accomplish with our next record. And it's like, you fools, creativity's way overrated. You kind of need to service the audience you have. That's what I thought. I didn't write them or anything. And they disappeared. Now, they might show up again if they take it upon themselves to service their audience. But that's really it. You have to serve the audience you've got. You can't, if you dump them, it's not like there's another audience just waiting and say, I'm tired of this audience. Let me get another one. I'm going to go into ragtime because I like those people. I'd rather drink with them. It's like, you can't do that.
Mm-hmm. How much can an artist stretch out with their audience? If you've achieved a certain amount of success.
Depends on the audience, depends on your success thing, right? Like, with an artist like Bryan Adams, he's got to kind of stick to it, right? And not that he minds, but
isn't that just sheer numbers, though?
I've jammed with Bryan a couple times, and he can do anything. He could play avant-garde trip music and do a total great job of it. I've jammed with him in some very atonal freak-out sessions, and the guy has a very clear musical ear, and he could be in any band you want. He could be a guitar player and do well in that band. But he can make $10 million a show, so why would he do that, right? But he has the musical ability. I'll just say that. Nobody points that out about Bryan, but he's could do anything he wanted. It's just he's got a great audience that supports him, and it would be foolish to abandon them and say, I'm going to make a record you guys won't like, but I hope you buy it. You won't like it. I know you, so I know he knows his audience. He knows what they like, and he delivers really well. And myself, I actually like some of the newer songs he's written better than even the Jim Vallance stuff, right? And not everybody's a fan of that. We can pull a name which is almost sacrilegious in cool blog things, and Nickelback, once again, I haven't played with those guys or recorded them, but I have sat in the studio when they're working and hung out with them a little bit and, joked around with Chad about stuff. And he's always interested in something, but they work so hard to make music for their audience. And all I tell people when they kick down Nickelback is, I'm not the intended audience. Don't ask me about Nickelback because I'm not the intended listener. They have an intention. They're making that music for somebody, and that person is not me. So I'm really not qualified to make an opinion. You'd have to go to a Nickelback fan who liked the first two records and ask them whether they like what Nickelback's doing now. That would be a valid point. Myself, I'm not the intended audience. I know they work hard at it and they're skillful at it. It's not my music. Personally, it's not what I enjoy listening to, but that doesn't mean it's not good.
But you hear this a lot where people will say, I just don't want to play that song anymore. I don't want to play. I want to do something different. I'm bored. I'm bored creatively. I don't want to keep playing this music anymore.
Tough shit, dude. Okay, fine. Take your money and go home and don't worry about making any more, right? You know, Hendrix even did that. My mom went to a concert with Jimi Hendrix at
Yeah, he talked about it actually.
Yeah, he
too.
did. He talked about it. He didn't want to do this stuff. And, you know, they went to a Jimi Hendrix concert at somewhere in LA. And the seats were all very steep. And Jimi Hendrix had on a big hat, huge hat. And he was looking down and just soloing all night. And people were going, "Foxy lady, take off your hat. We can't see you." And he was like, "No, I'm an artist. I'm an artist." And it's like, you know, everyone was disappointed with that show. And what would happen is if he came back, you can tell that anybody in the audience who liked what he was known for would not go. But maybe there'd be, you know, 10% of the people loved to have endless guitar solos. I would have been happy. I at that point, I loved endless guitar solos. I'm responsible for a few myself. But they're still going on in my head. They haven't even stopped. There's one in particular in G. You know, so abandoning your audience, you have to do it with peril. But I don't know. I don't find it that interesting. I'm interested in trying to move people, to affect them. That's all. I think that's interesting and fun. I've already played every note I ever thought of. I've already written songs and written good ones and bad ones and funny ones and important ones that nobody cared about and dumb ones that everybody liked. You know, and now it's like I've taken a look and I'm actually, the person I'm bored with is my own music. It's like, I'd rather just do something simple and fun.
What about the expression that you hear sometimes where artists will grow with, or an audience will grow with an artist?
Well, I do miss that. What I truly miss is when you bought the record by your favorite artist and you first put it on, you were like, I don't know, I'm not sure. And then a month later, you're like, oh my God, this is brilliant. I do miss that.
But I'm
that
actually
faith that we had that we would actually, that the artist could grow and we would grow with them, and the growing pains of that album when they made the jump. And you like, from like the classic examples, 60s, very well known, but from Rubber Soul to Revolver in the Beatles' career. That was a pretty big jump. But we welcomed it, because...
But I was actually referring to, people have they go through their life and from time to time, there's points in their life when music has meant more to them. And it could be because of circumstances in their life, some things happening in their life. It could be a particular age or their ability to actually listen to more music, have time to listen to it, or a time when they're finding themselves and music helps them through a good time, a bad time in their life. Music plays a role and punctuates a certain period in their life, and that once again is meaningful to them, and they carry that music with them. I'm thinking more like, when I say grow with an audience, I'm thinking more of young artists who start off doing something and then they mature and their music changes and an audience grows with them. Are they actually growing, or is the audience growing with them, or do you think they're developing or regenerating a new audience or finding a new audience? And I'll give you one little example.
Yeah, we need an example.
A few years ago, there was this guy, Justin Bieber, who was maybe debatably the internet discovery, right? He was found on the internet. The internet was used to help blow up his obvious talent. He appealed to a certain demographic and age group. And I remember thinking, and he had a couple of songs that were really popular, at least one. And I remember people saying, oh, he's not going to be here a year from now. Like, that's just a one-hit wonder, or that's just one of those things. It's one of those pop-up things that's going to happen, like many, many pop stars, young kids especially. And what is it? I mean, it must be 10 years later now. Well, see, we have a celebrity, right?
Well, it's an interesting, he's an interesting case because I remember when his record came out, and the guys at the Orange Lounge who worked on it with him were like, we want to hate him, but he's so fucking good. He's the real thing. He really is. He's really, really, really good. We want to hate him, but he's just so good.
Mm-hmm.
And, but he's an interesting case because his terrible behavior has really helped his career.
From a celebrity point of view.
From a celebrity point of view,
Yeah.
he's
this
stayed
is
in the
important,
news, right? Because we've lost, what's his name? That McCartney kid. What was his name? Who was right around the same time, same audience, same everything. Justin McCartney was at it. What was he had a bunch of hits? What was his name? No, McCartney. Not related to Paul McCartney.
Joe.
No.
Joey.
No, Justin. I thought it was young kid. I forget. My daughter was a big fan, and he was doing well. Another one, Aaron Carter was following up after his brother, and right in the same exact part of the marketplace. Justin Bieber's terrible behavior, staying in the news and getting, has worked well for him.
Does an artist...
Not to mention the great Saturday Night Live spoofs that they do on him, like when they mess with him.
But the thing is, though, that this is kind of where I'm getting at as well. Not so much with the audience growing with an artist, but how artists will get paid in the future. I mean, we're trying to put a lot into this segment, maybe a lot too much information, but there's this, with the advent of streaming, and we just seem to be really moving down that road. And there's this expression, at least on the business side, that's called the value gap. And that is, it seems to be overall music sales are actually up. Last couple of years, more music is being sold, actually. Sold in a different way than you and I lived through. So you've got all of these streaming services and more music, and people have got access to all this music for very, very low cost. It's really cool for the consumer. I mean, I love it. Like you can listen to anything you want virtually for free or for a small cost per month. Now, the value gap is that, the musician isn't getting paid or the content providers don't feel that they're getting paid a proportionate amount for what is going on.
Well, the funny thing is that if we look at the mathematics here of this streaming thing, it works out well for whoever runs the streaming service, because if they have 10 million subscribers at $1 a month, they make $10 million a month. Mm-hmm. Their 10 million subscribers, are downloading 100 million songs. Mm-hmm. What happens is, and they would say, we're going to give 10% of everything that comes in. So $1 million will be spread out between 100 million people in that situation, mm-hmm. whatever the cut is. What happens is that 3 guys are making $10 million or $8 million. The $2 million sounds like a big number. When you spread it between everybody that's streaming, it turns out that when your song plays, you get 0.0000012 cents or something like this. And it's like, I have my simple phrase is, yep, the internet has given us new and more practical ways to rip off musicians. But as my friend who is not really part of the music industry, he says the music industry exists to make money from musicians, not to make money for musicians. That's the point of the music industry.
That's right.
And so, we fought for years to get our cut. We've got our neighboring rights now. If you're a musician, if you played on the hit, you get paid. The songwriters made their deal and all that stuff back. You get paid that way. If you want to make a CD right now and you want to put a cover on it, you have to pay a 9-cent mechanical for each copy, which supposedly goes to the songwriter. Mm-hmm. But you don't have to pay that if you put it up for download.
Well, the songwriter, in theory, the songwriter is getting paid.
If on every stream, but what happens is that like, I'm working with a group. We want to do some covers because covers get played sometimes more often than original stuff. Mm-hmm. It can be a gateway to get your band out there, because if you watch TV, you'll hear a famous hit song, but sung by somebody you've never heard before. Yeah. And so we'd like to do that with our band. So we're going to cheat. We're going to put all originals on the CD so we don't have to pay the royalty, and all the covers we're going to be there available for digital download. Mm-hmm. And that way we don't have to pay the 9 cents per unit, and we'll just tell people, there's some additional material at this thing here, and if somebody says, "Oh, we really like that version of that Rolling Stones song you guys did in a hillbilly fashion, and we want to use that for our movie," we think it's great to hear Rolling Stones done by banjos and guitars sung like "Brother, Where Art Thou." It works for our film, right? It's like we can take advantage of that. But once again, here we are, we're cheating other artists out of their royalties so that we're all doing it.
But you're not. You're doing the same thing that's been done time immemorial. To tell you the truth, nothing has actually changed that way.
Yeah, exactly.
Because nobody was making any money from recordings unless you were selling a bazillion anyway.
True
so
enough.
if you're getting millions and millions of spins on Apple Music and Spotify, you're going to get paid, and you're going to have also other revenue streams that are going to pay you. But if you were an artist that didn't really sell that many compact discs in the 1990s, and this technology doesn't necessarily make it any better for that equivalent band selling or artists selling their music streaming today. It's still, nothing has really changed. Like, it's just you called it new, just a new way to rip off the musicians. I mean, it's making music, making money from musicians.
Well, true enough. I mean, the deal wasn't any better. I mean, our band just had a deal with Warner Canada, right? And at least they would advance us something, and then they would pay for our record, and then they made money off the project. We never got close to recouping, but they did end up ahead. They got more money out of it than they put in, but we didn't recoup our advance, because we have to recoup our advance out of our percentage. They get to keep the rest.
But for record companies, the big record companies, it's always just been a volume business anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you're taking that massive amount of content and then putting it into a portal, say it's called Spotify. Spotify is going to take a piece like they were, like they control a piece of distribution, right? So they're going to take a big chunk of that money. They're going to pay out on those plays. They're going to pay it out to those content providers, big record companies. Those content providers now have deals with the artists, so that fraction now gets smaller. Right? You've gone through at least to the consumer, to Spotify, to the content provider, to the artist, let's say. So it's going to be a small amount of money, right?
Yeah, it is small. I've never seen anything.
But the volume aspect of it has that's going to work for a company. Let's just say
that's what I was saying. Is that the guys who own the company make $10 million and they spread that between so many downloads that it gets fractionalized.
Nothing has changed, because when we were in the physical goods business, and we still are, but it's the die is cast. We're seeing how that's going to be diminished. Downloads will go first, but the physical will be all but gone, like 3, 5, 6 years, 10 years at least. It's probably over at that point. And this streaming model is just going to continue to be more and more mobile and accessible, and more like water, liquid. It's just, music's going to be there on demand whenever you need it. The volume aspect of historically worked the same way. It didn't really, like, if you were just, take away the music for a second, if you were just a bean counter working for one of those big content providers, one of the big record companies, it's just all plastic with different titles on a spreadsheet. If you look at it that way, all that was going on was we were selling plastic en masse, right? The actual intellectual, the artistry, the intellectual copyright, and the craft that went into producing it was kind of like inexpensive R&D or something. It was just like, that's a way to convince people to buy these
pieces of plastic that are about this big.
Yeah.
That's an interesting viewpoint.
I mean, but nothing has really changed, because if you're looking at just the mass model, it's just like, how many downloads total? Not downloads, but how many streams? And there's something pure with that, though. There's something that I'm attracted to the streaming model, because it actually tells you exactly what's going on. I mean, I'm sure there's ways to mess with it, to use technology to cheat, right? I don't know why anybody would want to cheat in the music business. It's never happened before, I'm sure.
No, it
But-
never happens.
But
people
but
always
if
get
if
paid
there
lots
isn't
of
the
money
cheating,
for playing music.
if there isn't cheating, then you're basically you're seeing exactly what people are listening to.
that's an
Everybody is
interesting
listening
thing.
to.
That's
Because if I
interesting.
bought a record in
Is that we can-
1970, I might have taken it home, played it once, and went, "I'll never play that again."
But you remember the revolution when SoundScan kicked in.
I do, and we will talk about the SoundScan revolution.
SoundScan revolution of the
but
90s.
I'm getting the sign. Music, not music. The crew wants double time if we keep going. So that's it. Stephen Drake.
Allen
and
Moy?
I'm Allen Moy. And until next time.
Later, Gator.
That was good. We were just getting good right at the end.
These guys have a dinner date or something?
Musings of the entertainment industry, of the music business, where it was, where it is, where it's going, why it's different. I don't know what this is yet.
We might even talk about music.